Let me see. So first up, I'm going to ask you to share your name, your business name, and when and how you got started.
Okay, so my name is Yema. Some people also know me by Wobia. Wobia is my middle name.
Gotcha.
Um, my business name is Pop of Culture, and I got started back in about April 2019. Yeah, so it's been a year and a half now, about since I've started Pop of Culture.
Oh, I didn't know it was that recent because you and I met, what was it, June of 2019, and the way you had your event put together, it was the Brooklyn pop-up. The way you had it put together was so professional and it was running so smoothly. I would not have known it was such a recent startup.
Yeah, and it was funny is because I actually was like super frantic on the inside during that event because I felt like everything was going wrong. I was like, oh my God, there's not enough space. Oh my goodness, like this, like when you're the one doing something, you feel like everything is wrong,
Yes, I get you.
And then everyone's like, oh my God, this is so great. And you're like, really? Okay.
You know, it's funny. I put on a fashion show a few years back, and that feeling of, you know exactly what your vision was, you know exactly how everything was supposed to go. So if one little thing goes wrong, you're like, no, it's a disaster. It's not working. You start to go into
Yes.
panic mode. I know the
That's
feeling, but it was a
exactly
really great event. I mean, I talked to quite a few vendors there, and they were just ecstatic. You know, we don't have stuff like this often, so it was really nice.
Exactly. And that's really one of the reasons why I started pop up culture is just because it's like, I previously I had owned an online boutique called Asha Afrique, and
Hmm.
I'm no longer doing that. But as the boutique owner, I would attend a lot of like pop-up shops, outdoor markets, things like that. And that's where I kind of like my interest really peaked um, with the pop-up shops and things like that. Cause I was like, oh, this is really dope. I love the concept. And I would find myself like very interested in other people's brands. I'd be like asking them questions like, oh, tell me about this. Oh, your products are so great. Like, what's your story? What do you like? I was so interested. So I was like, okay, maybe I should pivot because I started losing interest in my boutique because I just felt like I didn't really have a vision for it.
Mm.
So a lot of the pop-up shop events weren't there weren't a lot of black owned brands
Mm.
that I would see. And I'm just like, okay, because I know there's a lot of quality black owned brands out there. So maybe we just need to create a space where they feel more welcome, more supported, more celebrated. And so
Mm.
that's really kind of the idea behind pop-up culture.
Yes, I completely agree with you. It's like the work that we're doing right now for Black businesses is creating the space, you know, making it an ease of access for them as opposed to the traditional market where they have so many obstacles. So I really enjoyed that. I could definitely tell that from the environment of the event. And you seem like a naturally inquisitive and curious person. So it makes more sense for you to pivot from the boutique where you don't have as much personal interaction with the customer to then pop of culture where, I mean, you're doing interviews and you're doing artist highlights. I read a few of your articles on the site and it was just so in depth. I really felt like I was getting to know each business owner.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So with COVID and the pandemic, how did your business pop of culture pivot from pop-up shops?
So of course, so I just some background. I'm in Lagos right now.
Mm.
Pop Culture is a US based brand, but I'm in Lagos since December. And I was actually supposed to come back in January,
Oh,
but I decided to stay. I was like, let me stay until I have to do my first event because the pop up shops were supposed to start beginning of May. So I was like, let me stay until like mid-April and then I'll go back. But of course, like the COVID came, the lockdown came, and I was here. Um, and the reason why I stayed, I decided not to leave in January was because I wanted to start bringing my brand over to the Lagos market.
mm,
Because I'm Nigerian, and so I know how like there's a lot of small brands here that would benefit from something I'm doing.
mhm,
So I was like, let me start like laying some ground work and like doing getting to know the right people and things like that. And I actually had an event planned for Lagos in beginning of April, so right before I was going to leave. But
gotcha.
of course, with lockdown, COVID came, everything was just like completely turned upside down. I couldn't have my Nigerian events. I couldn't have my US events. So I was literally just like, what am I going to do? I was like, I have no idea like what I'm going to do right now. So the marketplace, the pop-up culture marketplace was actually an idea that I was going to implement in 2021. Because I was like, oh, let me see how this 2020 year goes with our events. Let me, really solidify the brand, and then I can launch the marketplace. We launched a marketplace about a month and a half ago. And it's the same brand name, Pop-up Culture Marketplace, and it features various Black-owned brands.
I really noticed browsing the marketplace that your attention to quality was, I mean, top tier. I've seen clothing, I've seen shoes, handbags, everything was just, first of all, amazing photography, high definition, but the products alone, they look like you vetted them. We can tell you vetted them. So what is the vetting process like in depth from the business owners to the product?
So essentially what we do, so one of the first things I did as a new marketplace was I actually emailed brands on my own. Mm-hmm. So just naturally, even for my pop-up shop events, I do a lot of research on Instagram. Like I'm on Instagram a lot. Mm-hmm. And not because I'm like looking through time, but because I'm researching brands. So I spend hours on Instagram. And I catalog all the brands that I find interesting. And then I reach out to them and say, hey, I came across your brand. I really like, that you are professional. I like your products. I like your branding. Would you like to join the marketplace type of thing? So I do a lot of like cold emailing and reaching out myself. But as for brands that might apply on their own, of course, I just look for, I look at your website and Instagram and see, okay, is it professionally put together? No one's saying that you have to, be super fancy or have a huge budget, but I just look for basics. Like your pictures are visible, they're high definition, they're clear. There's some creative elements in it. You can tell that you thought about, okay, how am I going to set up this photo? How are my products looking? How are my product labels looking? I also look at their brand story, just to see what they're about. So those are a lot of the things that I look for, because at the end of the day, everything is about perception. Everything is about putting forth your best face, I should say. And so you want to always make sure that whenever you're presenting to the customers or potential customers, everything looks good, everything is working well. So I really try to pay attention to quality as much as I can.
Yes, I can definitely tell from the site. I hate when people say this, but it looked like the Amazon of Black fashion marketplace. I mean, it was just so professionally done, from the website to the photography to the navigation. I mean, it was excellent. It's a great rollout.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So I really want to explore, what does a pitch sound like when you reach out to a brand? How do you describe the premise of the marketplace to them?
So I have like a template that I change up depending on who I'm talking to. Mm-hmm. But usually the general outline of it is I introduce myself. Hey, I'm Yema Igwe. And I'm the founder of Pop-up Culture. And then I go into give a little background about what Pop-up Culture is. So I always describe it as a community, because that is what my ultimate vision for Pop-up Culture is to create a community that supports Black entrepreneurs and creatives around the world. And then I go into detail and say a couple of the ways that we are supporting Black entrepreneurs is through our multi-city pop-up shop events and our recently launched marketplace. Mm-hmm. And so I just explained to them that the mission of the brand is to really create an ecosystem in which Black-owned businesses, entrepreneurs, creatives can come together and support one another and reap benefits, interact with their community. So that's really how I pitch it. It's about all of us working together to help move the agenda forward, really. And so with Pop-up Culture, I let them know that this is a more so focus on fashion, beauty, and lifestyle brands. So I understand some marketplaces, they're like marketplaces for everything. You can go and find laundry detergent, you can find hair clippers, you can find, but for me, I just wanted to focus in on fashion, beauty, and some lifestyle brands, just to make it, so it's very specific. You know what you come to look for.
Absolutely. I can tell, like me, you're a very visual person and you really express your creativity through visuals. So whether it's through clothing or whether it's through art, you're very good at cultivating that environment. So it's really exciting.
Thank you.
I did notice the Create the Culture, and it's called the Collaborative Project featuring Black artists. And when you described creating an ecosystem where Black business people and artists can thrive, that's immediately what I thought of. So can you tell us more about the Create the Culture project?
Yes, so that actually is another, I didn't mention it when you asked me about pivoting because it's still very new. It's not something that is, it's not fully bloomed yet, I should say. But Create the Culture is essentially a creative project that I started in which I want to work with illustrators. So specifically fashion illustrators, I'm sorry, not fashion illustrators, but art illustrators around the world to create custom merchandise. So whether that is, notebooks, clothing, so like hoodies, sweatpants, t-shirts, whether it's bags, whether it's even, ceramics, so like maybe dish plates. There's so many different possibilities, but the center of it is the creativity, the artwork, the expression. And so that's the premise behind the project. And so it's just now up and running. I mean, the first collaboration we had, or that's still ongoing, is with a Ghanaian illustrator named Princella. She's actually based out of Russia right now because she's going to medical school, but she does art illustration as well. So with her, we created some notebooks and some t-shirts and some cute little pouches. They are for sale right now on the Pop-Up website. But like I said, the project is still up and coming. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I want to market it and package it. So yeah, but I'm really excited for it. I think it has a lot of potential, especially with people really appreciating art more nowadays. And with social media being able to amplify that, I think that it can grow into something really impactful.
I agree with you. It sounds extremely exciting. I hate that I can go out and grab a piece of art and think, okay, I'm going to put this in my home and not really know much about the artist or the background or a story about it. So that the way you connect the creator with the consumer really helps build and speak to the story of how everything was created and even the process behind it. Just knowing that Princella is in Russia studying medical school, but she's also still creating is just such an interesting story.
Yeah, and she's so young. I mean, how old did she tell me she was? Like 21, 22, something around there. She's so young, and so the fact that she's so talented, and so that really, like I said, I'm someone who gets really excited about people's stories and just the skill set and just the creativity they come with. And that is what really makes me excited whenever I embark on a new project. It's like, how can I bring these stories, these individuals to the forefront?
I get that. You are a very good storyteller. I was reading a few of the Brand of the Week highlights and really got to know these business owners in depth further. How do you develop your line of questioning, and does it just come to you because you're naturally inquisitive, or do you start out with a template?
So for the blog features, I have base questions that I ask all the brands. But again, depending on who you are or what you do, I might add some more questions in there just to really cater to your art. But usually I have a general template. But the questions I generally want to know, of course, who you are, where you're from, basic information, like how old are you? Yeah. But I also like, where did you start out at? What were you doing before you launched this brand? What are some of the obstacles that you faced or are still currently facing? And what is your hope or visions for your brand? What impact would you like to make? How has your family and your friends, how has your community supported you or inspired you? So really questions like that really give you insight into what it is they've gone through, and also offer some perspective to the reader as well, where they can walk away from the article saying, oh, okay, like I've gained some insight, or I've learned something, or now I'm able to look at something from a different angle, you know?
A different perspective. It's sometimes difficult to get inside of a creative's mind. So I like that you really explore from start to finish, not just from when the business started, but even before, when they may have been working a regular 9 to 5, or, you know, considering as entrepreneurship for them.
Exactly. Yes.
So of course that rolls into, for you, how did you get started with pop-up culture, and what kind of pushed you into entrepreneurship?
So what pushed me into entrepreneurship? So as I said, I had a boutique that called Asha Afrique that I started beginning of 2017, because I was like, so I was actually supposed to go to physical therapy school. I got accepted into Howard's doctorate program after I came back from Nigeria in 2016. No, okay, so I graduated college, applied to Howard's doctorate physical therapy program. I got accepted, but I didn't want to go because I was like, physical therapy is not, I don't want to do physical therapy. So I didn't tell my parents that I got accepted. Instead, I was like, I want to go to Nigeria for a year. And Nigeria has this thing called Nigerian Youth Service. It's for Nigerian graduates, citizens who just graduated from college and want to serve their country. So it's like a community-based type thing. So I was like, I'm going to go to Nigeria and do NYSC. They're like, okay, great. I came back. They were under the impression that I was going to keep pursuing, like, you know, graduate school, physical therapy or whatever. I was like, no, I think I want to start a business. And so they're like, okay. I mean, I was like, I want to start a fashion business. But again, like I said, that was my first time ever embarking on like a real entrepreneurship business type of venture. And long story short, I failed at it. And I think that it's important for me to be very transparent with that, because sometimes people think that you start something and it's going wonderfully, but I failed at it. I didn't have a real business strategy. I just was kind of like, well, let me just like, you know, see how it goes. Let me do this. You know, I like fashion, so maybe it'll work out. And, you know, I plan things out as far as like, you know, what I want the concept to be like, what Nigerian brands I wanted to work with and things like that. But I didn't have like a real sturdy strategy, like a foundation. And so I ended up throwing a lot of money into it, which I regret. You know, I bought a lot of inventory up front, which anyone who does retail knows that inventory that's sitting is just money just being wasted, you know? And so that really taught me a lot. And so that's one of the reasons why I decided to just say, okay, let me just step away from this. You know, I've learned valuable lessons from this, but it's not going the way that I want it to go. So that's kind of where I pivoted into the pop-up culture. And it actually started out with me and two other people, because we were like, oh, let's start doing like pop-up shops. But what happened was, which sometimes happens when you work with other people, not everyone is on the same page, and not everyone is putting the same amount of effort into it. So I was like, I want this to actually become something. Like, this is like a brand I'm trying to grow. Whereas the two people I were working with, I think they were just kind of like, you know, let's just, you know, it was different for them. And so it ended up being a lot of frustration. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go my own way, and I'm going to build up this brand by myself. So that we separated, and I built it up by myself. And so that's really where pop-up culture was born. And, you know, from the first event in May 2019 up until end of December, I literally was a one-woman team. I was doing everything by myself, from social media to planning the events to the execution on the day of, to blog writing, everything. And I still kind of am a one-woman team, but I recently hired a couple social media people for the main pop-up culture page and the marketplace page. But other than that, it's still just me working on everything.
That's really exciting. You're growing. It's really exciting. I did really like that you acknowledge that business failure, it happens and you can pivot and you can learn from it. I believe I read a stat that more than 30% of businesses fail within the first 2 years. And Black businesses, of course, are more susceptible to that because we have less financial backing, we have less support, we have less knowledge than the average business. So I think it's really important that you shared how you may have learned from that experience and how you didn't just give up.
Exactly. And for me, like giving up is just not an option because I think I just have so much of an entrepreneurial spirit
Mm-hmm.
that I'm like, listen, okay, if it's not this, then what else is it going to be? Like, let's figure something out, you know? So
Yeah.
that's just kind of how I move. I'm like, okay, I can't be down for too long. Like, what else can I do? How can I, move a little differently in order to get the results that I want?
Mm-hmm. And where do you think that entrepreneurial spirit came from or where it arose from? I know your parents really wanted you to go to school, and when you changed, how did they support you through that?
I'm not really sure with the spirit. Um, I think I'm trying to think. I mean, because my both my parents, they're not entrepreneurs. My dad's a computer programmer.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is a nurse. They're very much, they're Nigerians that came to the US to strictly pursue education and build a better life for themselves. So, and that is what they did very well. Um, and so there was never they never talked to us about entrepreneurship. They never made it a thing. It was always, go to school, get a good profession. So either you're a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, an engineer, or like an investment banker or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, go and get a good job that has a good job outlook, and you can work in it and grow your career. So when I came with like the entrepreneurial spirit, which I think that it was a combination of things that built up over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And it also comes with confidence as well. So I think in college, I was president of the African People's Association. Um, and the year that I was president, my best friend was vice president. And two other friends were like treasurer, secretary. And honestly, together, we literally like changed up the whole like organization. Like there would be African nights, these African nights that are at the end of each year. And when I tell you like our African night was like the best African night, people literally like, you guys did such an amazing job. And I think that really got me interested in like, okay, like I noticed a lot of certain skill sets that came out when I was in that position that you don't really notice before. And you're kind of like, okay, maybe I should explore some of these things a little deeper. But so yeah, I think the entrepreneurial spirit just came from me wanting to just really branch out and do my own thing. And sometimes, God will like reveal certain things to you. I think it's really about like finding your purpose. And at some point, um, things are going to just reveal themselves to you, and you can't fight like your true nature for that long, because I feel like when you try to do that, you end up just doing things that don't really have any meaning to you. You're just busy like wandering throughout life, just doing things that don't really feel good. Like you don't feel like you're belonging, like you're walking in your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like once I started my entrepreneurial journey, I really feel excited and motivated. Like, okay, like I'm in the right lane. It's just a matter of like really perfecting whatever it is that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. That sounds really exciting. I noticed that, especially now that I look back at college, at the college spaces where you, of course, learn, but you learn skills that you didn't even know existed within you, and skills that you didn't know you would receive so much enjoyment from working on, from building on. And of course, it sounds like you are more of a leader than being a team member. Even with starting the pop culture business with two other members, it sounds like you naturally lead so well. So it's amazing that you discovered that spirit within you, even being from parents who didn't even know about entrepreneurship or who didn't explore that aspect with you. I'm Haitian, and I always see the parallels between Haitian parents and Nigerian parents, where it is usually focused, go to school, get a good job. And now we are, second and third generation. So we see how we've adapted into entrepreneurship and kind of just thrown ourselves into it without you know, the knowledge, all the knowledge we have is from the internet or from friends or from research.
Exactly. We kind of have to learn on our own and figure things out a little bit.
Yeah. So I really wanted to know, do you have any tips or any recommendations for entrepreneurs, especially like you, transcontinental entrepreneurs? You can go, you did a US tour with the pop of culture shops, and then you transitioned to Nigeria. Do you have any tips on how to work throughout the world and how to adapt?
Um, I would say, well, one thing I will say is that helped me a lot is being Nigerian and, having been coming home before, even before, I decided to start pop culture. Because of course, pivoting and becoming international with a brand like this is a little more difficult.
Mhm.
Of course, if you have like an online retail business where you sell clothing or shoes, it's easier to become international with the internet. You use Instagram to market to an international market. You have your website that has international shipping, which is kind of a norm nowadays. Everyone has international shipping,
Mhm.
and everyone can be discovered on the internet. But with more service-based, event-based type of businesses, I would say that to expand internationally, you just have to, first of all, if you're someone that doesn't, okay, let me say, if you're someone that does fortunately have like connections to another country or place, take advantage of that, because it's a privilege essentially that you're able to easily connect or go back to somewhere and take advantage of your connections, your network, the resources. So if you do have that option, take advantage of it, because most likely you'll see that you're able to make the same or an even bigger impact in a different international market.
Mhm.
And so if you're doing that, just rely on family and friends and tell them what you're doing and say, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to come over to this market. Can you help me out? Can you connect me to people that I might need to know? Because that's one thing I did. I make connections pretty quickly because I'd be like, okay, here's what I want to do. I talk to people, I tell them what I want to do, and they're like, oh, I think I know someone that can, link you to this or can help you with that. And so things just kind of started flowing. But if you're not someone who has that direct connection back to somewhere else, or you can easily pivot to another country, of course, do your research. I mean, everyone should always do their research across the board. Do your research, find out about the industry in that market. So if you want to do events, find out about, what is the event industry like in that place? What type of events do people, really go to? What are some of the things people are interested in? How would I be able to reach my target audience? What are some of the restrictions that I might have? Because of course, going to different countries, there's different restrictions, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's policies, whether, everything. So you want to make sure you know all of that.
Mhm.
And then of course, don't be afraid to reach out. So again, the internet is a wonderful thing. Social media is a wonderful thing. It has really made our world smaller. And so sometimes you might think like, oh, I don't know this person. Oh, I don't know this company. But take away that fear and just send an email or send a DM and say, hey, my name is such and such. I have a brand that I want to bring to this part of the world. I noticed that you do a similar thing or you do a complementary type of thing. Maybe we can partner and bring this idea to life, and you never know what they will say until you ask. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask and start making those connections over social media.
Absolutely. I think that's really important. I love that you said social media has made our world smaller, because we always hear about the negative ways that social media has affected our world. But for business owners like you and I honestly love the power that social media has.
I mean, absolutely. Like, I mean, who would have thought that you can just, search a little bit and then you come across all these brands that are all over the world who are doing so many great things,
Mhm.
and you're able to showcase, your talent or your business, and people are just seeing it. Like it just makes everything so much easier, and so much more visible. And so I think if you really know how to use social media and you're not afraid to put yourself out there, then you can really start to see a lot of benefits.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Can you tell us a little more about Lagos and the business and entrepreneurial environment there? Whenever I hear anyone speak about it, they speak of how amazing this hub of creativity is. So how has it been for you?
Lagos is definitely, like I said, it's the business hub of Nigeria, and one of the biggest business hubs in Africa in general.
Mhm.
And so it's there's so much to be tapped into here. There's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of skills, a lot of smart people. People in Nigeria are naturally hustlers. That's one thing I would tell you. I said, if you come to Nigeria, especially Lagos, like, listen, hustling is nothing new here. People will out hustle you. You know, people will out hustle you. So it's like you come here and you almost feel motivated. Like everyone is even whether it's someone on the street selling water or whether it's some, you know, it doesn't matter what level they're at or whether they're an executive, people know how to hustle. And so when you come here, you just feel motivated and inspired, like, okay, like let me step my game up, especially because there's a lot of markets that are underdeveloped or untapped in Nigeria that you can really, when you come from the outside with like fresh perspective and fresh ideas, you can really kind of tap into these markets and be impactful. Mm-hmm. So I would tell anyone, like, you know, Lagos and Nigeria in general, and even other African countries, Accra, you know, Nairobi, places in South Africa, I mean, places in Rwanda, like if you're coming, of course, come ready to work. No one's saying that it's going to be easy because it's not easy at all. Because like I said, even though there's a lot of untapped opportunities, there's still a lot of obstacles that you have to overcome. Things as simple as, you know, not having 24-hour electricity. You know, some people might be very annoyed by that, you know, and it can also become costly because you now have to run a generator sometimes. Or, you know, certain infrastructure. So maybe some of the roads are not the way that you want them to be. Mm-hmm. Or even working with people. Sometimes people will try to cheat you, or even the pace at which they work might not be the pace at which you want them to work. Mm-hmm. You know, registering a business can be expensive sometimes and be so long and drawn out because the government makes things hard on people who are trying to, like, you know, be innovative and things like that, because like the bribes, the corruption, things like that can kind of, you know, it can kind of make you feel bad. Like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. But I always tell people, you have to come here with tough skin. If you have tough skin and you're resilient, you will be fine. But yes, I mean, I love being here in Lagos. And like I said, I'm very excited to bring the Pop of Culture brand here and really solidify it here and grow it across Nigeria, across Africa.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you've built so many skills and so many relationships and really learned to adapt wherever you are. I mean, it just makes sense that you can step back into your home in Nigeria and come back and forth to the US, and you came here to Brooklyn, and I know you went to California for the tour. I mean, it takes you everywhere because you're a person who can naturally connect with anyone wherever you go. You have a massive collection of skill sets that help you be the best entrepreneur you can be. What is your number one skill you think an entrepreneur must possess?
The number one skill. That's interesting. I don't know if it's a skill or more so a mindset. Okay, I don't know if I can say number. Maybe I can say top three, because number one is hard. But of course, emotional intelligence is, I mean, you hear that people talk about that all the time. You know, whether they're big Fortune 500 CEOs or whether they're even small business owners. Emotional intelligence is really important because, yeah, you know, you can have IQ, which of course means you're really smart, but emotional intelligence really taps into your ability to understand and kind of use your communication, your emotions to connect with other people. And if we've learned anything in this world, it's that connecting with other people is probably the most valuable thing that you can do, because it's those connections that will allow you to grow. It's those connections that keep customers coming back to you. You know what I mean? It's those connections and you being able to sympathize and empathize and relate to other people that really makes your brand impactful. So emotional to intelligence is really important. Another thing I will say is not being afraid to fail, and like not being afraid to get out of your comfort zone, because if you're afraid to fail, you will never do anything. Like you'll just be like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. You know what I mean? And one thing, in addition to that, not being afraid to fail, but also admitting and saying, yes, I failed at this, and here's why I failed. So sometimes we might fail and we kind of like just run away from it, you know? We don't really like sit in the failure and say, okay, I failed. Why did I fail? You know what I mean? And really be able to process that and know that you'll probably learn a lot more from failing than you will at winning. And that's just across the board. And then another thing I would say is adaptability. How well are you able to adapt? Like, if you're not able to adapt, then you will just fall into the wayside. So being able to adapt and say, okay, this may not be the ideal situation, but I'm going to work with what I have to make the most of it, you know? So I would say those three things are really, really important. And if you possess them, then you'll be fine. I think that you'll be just fine.
That's perfect. I love that. And I love that you expanded to top three, because honestly, it takes a collection of personality traits and experiences to be in this sphere of entrepreneurship. I did want to ask you, how should I pose this question? It seems like your mission may have shifted when it went from pop-ups to doing the marketplace. Has it changed at all? And has it changed your plan for the next 5 years or so?
No, I wouldn't say that the mission has changed with the addition of the marketplace. Because like I said, when you go to our website, the main Pop Up Culture website, under the mission, it literally says that we want to build an ecosystem in which we can celebrate and support, you know, Black entrepreneurs and creatives. So within that ecosystem, there's of course different parts, you know, and so the marketplace is just one part of that ecosystem. And it's still a way that we are supporting and celebrating Black-owned brands. You know, we're giving them a platform to reach an international audience. And so I would say the mission is always the same. And everything I do, I actually make sure I go back to the mission and say, how is this connecting back to our mission? So that I make sure to stay aligned. Because I think that the moment that you step out of your mission, then your brand will fall apart. I really think if you're trying to do all these things, like your mission is your core. That's why it's so good to establish that mission before you do anything else and really say, what do I want this brand to be about? That way, everything you do from there, at that point forward, you can say there's a common foundation. And when you have that foundation, you know that, okay, I have a strong brand. So moving forward, everything that I want to do in the next 5 years will just build off of growing that ecosystem, providing more opportunities for Black entrepreneurs and creatives, and really allowing the Black community to, all of us to come together. Because like I said, it takes a community to really push, you know, push our agenda forward. So of course we have the Black entrepreneurs and creatives we work with, but we also have the people who are supporting them, the shoppers, the enthusiasts. You know, we want to make sure that we are catering to them as well and having really quality events and, you know, giving them value as well. So everything kind of works in synergy. And that's for the next 5 years. Anything that I can't say exactly what I'm going to do in the next 5 years, but just know that whatever it is that I do is going to reflect well on the Black community, on Black entrepreneurs, and Black creatives.
I love that you say you're creating an ecosystem, because the way that Black businesses and Black capitalism is working at the moment, it's not just about, yes, I want to buy this thing from this Black business owner. It's about, I want to buy this thing. I want to know their story. I want to support a community and a family and, you know, really connect with the person I'm purchasing from and connect with the items I am buying, the services, of course. So I think it's really important that you're not just saying this is, you know, a shopping mall or just a marketplace. The word ecosystem is a beautiful description for it. It's perfect.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I did want to ask you, how does your average day start, or how does it go? And how does that plug into, you say, you always remember your mission statement as you go throughout your day. So how do you check in with yourself as you do that?
I'm still trying to establish, you know, people usually have like, they have like daily rituals and they have things they do and things like that. I mean, I do have things that I do. Like I try to work out pretty regularly. One thing I did recently start doing is I started praying more. And because, so for August, I literally put down all my goals. I said, okay, I want this to happen. I want this to happen. One of them was I want to be praying every day. Um, and for me, whether it's prayer or meditation, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that helps me kind of recenter and really go back to like, okay, what it is, what am I doing? Like, what's my purpose? Like, am I, moving in the right direction? And I think when you pray or meditate, it just allows you to reflect. And just, you can either ask God, or if you're not a religious person, if you meditate, you can just say, I want to move forward with clarity. Like, here's the 4 things I ask in every prayer that I pray. I say, God, please grant me clarity, discipline, patience, and gratitude every day. Because I feel like with those 4 things, if I'm clear, if you grant me with clarity, then I'm able to see everything as it should be, and I'm able to make the right decisions. Patience, I know that things are not going to happen overnight, and patience is a virtue. You have to just wait sometimes for your blessings to come. And it doesn't mean waiting idly. It just means saying, okay, let me not be in a haste. And then discipline, just staying focused and discipline on what it is I'm supposed to be doing. And of course, gratitude, always being grateful no matter what step I am in life, no matter where I am, being grateful that I'm alive, being grateful that I even have the opportunity to pursue my dreams, because as we know, with so much going on in this world, people are dying. People are dying. And for you to even wake up and go through your day unscathed, like that's a blessing and just a lot to be grateful for. So those are the things that I pray for every day. And that really helps me kind of refocus, recenter. And I just remember that, Yema, listen, you have a purpose. You're on the right path. You're putting in the work. Just keep staying the course and everything will be fine.
I love that. That is a very powerful way to start your day. My mom used to shame us, and she would be like, if we were watching TV or if we were up and about the house, she'd be like, did you talk to God this morning? Did you do the first thing you need to do, which is pray and meditate and just, think over your thoughts?
Yes, it makes a world of difference. Like you would, it can even be like a short, like 1 minute, 2 minute prayer. It just makes you feel like, okay, like I feel good, So I've noticed a difference ever since I started being intentional about doing it every day. I've noticed a certain level of peace that has just come over me.
I like that. I love that a lot. Well, I want to wrap up. I don't want to hold you for too long. Can you share with us any plans for the future or anything we should look out for within the marketplace?
Well, 2021, pending, hopefully things will open up more and 2021 will be a much brighter outlook, but we'll be back into the swing of things with our pop-up shops. Our pop-up season in the US is from beginning of May till December. So we're excited to come to new cities, LA, Miami, Seattle, and of course, New York, Atlanta, Houston, all of those wonderful cities that we love. And then of course, the expansion into the Lagos market. So we'll be doing much more Lagos events. We also want to go into Accra and do some events there. So there's a lot to be excited for. And then also just collaboration. So that's something moving forward we want to really tap into. There's a lot of great collaborations with other Black brands, whether they're media brands or, beauty brands, fashion brands, whatever. We want to have really great collaboration. So those are some of the things you can look forward to. And I'm grateful for everyone that has been supportive thus far. And hopefully we can just keep growing our impact in our community.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see where this goes. It's amazing. Please share your links, your social media, where everyone can connect with you.
So the Pop of Culture brand, the main Instagram page is at Pop of Culture Pop-Up. And from there, you can be linked to our marketplace. It's called Pop of Culture Marketplace, and the market is spelled MKT. And then my personal Instagram page and Twitter page is Miss, so MS_Wobia, WOBIA, and that is how you can find me.